subscribed to the channel and been watching the videos. I truly appreciate you. And if you're new here and you enjoy whispered true crime, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post 2 times a week, on Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, let's get to today's case. This one is outrageous. Like, you will find it so hard to believe that any of this really happened. You may have seen the movie from 2007 called Savage Grace, which tells this story. But if you haven't, and if you've never heard of this before, get ready, okay? Just get ready. So, today I'm going to be talking about Barbara Daly Baekeland and her son Tony. So Barbara was born as Barbara Daly on September 28th, 1921 in Boston, Massachusetts. She was born to a middle-class family. Her mother had experienced a nervous breakdown prior to Barbara's birth. We don't really know what nervous breakdown means, back in those days. They called everything a nervous breakdown. So it's very non-specific. But anyway, in 1929, as many, if not all of you know, the stock market crashed. And many people were affected in a huge way, including Barbara's father, Frank, who lost all his money. And in 1933, because of this, he took his own life. So obviously, Barbara and her mother were distraught, but they picked themselves up, took the insurance money, and moved to New York City. They got themselves an apartment in the Delmonico Hotel. And things were looking up for them. Now, Barbara was known to be an extremely gorgeous girl. She was named, or she was considered to be, one of the top 10 most beautiful girls in New York. She became a model, and she aspired to be a movie actress at some point. And she made her way into the high-class social party circuit. In the 1940s, she fell for this guy named Brooks, even though she was extremely beautiful, she did have some issues, to say it lightly. She had mood swings. She was a heavy drinker. She would say like obnoxious and inappropriate things at times. So she lied to him and told him that she was pregnant so he would marry her. And then I don't know whether, how it went down after that. Like, did she say she lost the baby, or did she tell him she lied? I don't know, okay, but she never had a baby at that point because she was never pregnant. But luckily, or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, she got pregnant for real in 1946, and she gave birth to their one and only son, Anthony, who they called Tony. Now, by the time he was born, their marriage was already on the rocks. They were both having frequent, flings, let's just say. And they weren't getting along very well. But they had this baby, so, they're staying together. And it's not to say that the baby made things any better for their relationship. Because Tony had some issues as well. He was very interested in dissecting insects and small animals, but his parents seemed to think that it was like some kind of scientific intelligence, That's why he was doing it, because he was very into science. And he drew bloody pictures of humans, which they proudly showed to their dinner guests. And the dinner guests were like, yeah, don't know what to say, It's like the Baekelands didn't really see anything wrong with their son, but everyone else did. Now, in 1954, they decided they would spend some time just kind of freely traveling through Europe. Spending, months here and months there. Keep it interesting, because they were super rich. So anyway, as it turns out, Brooks, the husband, met himself a lovely English diplomat's daughter, who he was very happy with, even though she was 15 years younger than him. And he told Barbara, I want a divorce. I like this English girl. So Barbara, I don't know if it was, for attention or, sympathy or what. We'll never know, but she attempted to take her life. And it worked, because he called off the affair, and over to Morocco and took him by the arm and dragged him back to Switzerland, which is where they were living. There was no way that she was going to allow her son to be homosexual because in her eyes, he was perfect, except for that. Okay, in her eyes, she saw no wrong. He was smart, he was creative, he was good looking, he was wealthy, he was everything, okay? No need for him to have any flaws. And she was thrilled when he brought home a girl, a French girl named Sylvie. But that didn't last long because you're never going to believe this, okay? You are never going to believe what I am saying. But Tony's father, Barbara's husband, Brooks, he fell for this girl, Sylvie, right away. You know what? It didn't matter that she was super young, and it didn't matter that she was the girlfriend of his son. This was who he wanted. It seems absolutely, not only is it insane, but selfish and breaks every, code out there, you know. But regardless, he told Barbara, I am leaving you for real this time, and I am going to marry Sylvie instead. So, just like last time, Barbara attempted to take her life, but he was not moved, okay? He said, whatever, yeah, I'm divorcing you anyway, and he did, and he married Sylvie, and he even had a son with her. Now, I don't know how, Tony felt about this, really. You know, I don't know if he even had any romantic feelings about Sylvie. You know, I'm not really sure. There's, doesn't tell you anywhere what his reaction was to this situation. I mean, he was already from such a dysfunctional family lifestyle in every which way. I'm not sure how he felt about his father stealing his girlfriend, you know. relationship of sorts. And they didn't really keep it quiet either while they were in Majorca. You know, they flaunted it about like, you know, it was normal and, you know, natural. But as soon as they came back from Majorca, Tony checked himself into a psych ward. I guess he was not feeling too stable after this trip. And shortly after that, Barbara found herself a new boyfriend in New York. He was an art curator. He was about 20 years younger than her. And she showed him Tony's artwork, you know, the artwork that I mentioned a while ago. His bloody human artwork. She thought that her boyfriend, whose name was Samuel Adams Green, she thought he would be impressed, but he wasn't. And anyway, their relationship didn't work out. After 6 weeks, he broke up with her. But she was desperate to get him back, so she actually put on a fur coat with nothing underneath, walked over to his apartment in the snow, and tried to win him back, but it didn't work. That was the end of him. So, now we are at 1972. Barbara and Tony are now living together in London. Tony was mentally becoming sicker and sicker. It was said that he was regressing into like a childlike type of way. At times, she would come home to find him doing things like sitting on the floor and finger painting, or putting little gold star stickers all over his sneakers. And the two of them were not getting along at all. They would constantly have heated and aggressive arguments that were so loud that the neighbors would call the police. And then one day, when she was out with him, he pushed her in front of moving traffic on purpose. Luckily for her, she wasn't actually hit, but he was arrested. And he was put in a psychiatric hospital. But she didn't press charges. She took him right back to live with her. And a psychiatrist told her that he was capable of murdering her, and she should be concerned. But she wasn't concerned. So one evening, as she was making dinner, they started arguing, as usual. This time it was about a friend of his who he wanted to invite over, and she didn't want to invite this person over. So, I'm sure you can guess what happened next. He grabbed a kitchen knife, and with assuming it's his mother's mother, okay? So I'm assuming this is the woman who originally already had her own mental issues, but regardless. After only 6 days with her, he attempted to kill her, just like his mother. He stabbed her 8 times. Luckily for her, she lived. Now, since he's in New York, the police came and they took him to Rikers Island, where he would await trial. Now, if you haven't heard of Rikers Island, or if you have heard of it, you may or may not know, it's one of the New York City prisons, but I don't know if that's the correct word, prison. But typically it's not a long-term one, It's one of the places where you would stay until you've been completely, sentenced and all, and then you'd go upstate, as they say usually. So it's kind of a short-term facility. Not that this matters at all, but anyway, right before his trial, he took his own life by suffocating himself with a plastic bag. Somewhere I read that the plastic bag was made by his grandfather's company, but I'm skeptical that that's accurate. I kind of doubt it. Anyway, so that's the case, okay? It's kind of like a tragic comedy in a way, you know what I mean? Like, I hate to even use the word comedy when people die, but it's just so out there. I mean, it's not funny. It really isn't, but you know what I'm saying. It's like everything went wrong here. Just everything. So, tell me what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to know your reactions. At least as far as Tony is concerned, I feel that if he weren't being raised by such an unstable mother, things would have been a lot different for him. Obviously. I mean, he probably would have had this schizophrenia anyway, because it seems like there's a genetic component here with Barbara's mother, Barbara, and then Tony, right? But everything that he went through just surely made his condition worse and worse and worse. So it never needed to be like that for him. And it's just like, she did everything wrong. She just did the opposite of whatever you should do, clearly. And Brooks, her husband, was not too great either. I mean, look at the things that he did. Granted, he was sort of tricked into this relationship to begin with, but the way he handled it was just completely horrible. All these affairs, and if it's not bad enough to have an affair, why do you have to have an affair with your son's friend? I mean, that's just over the top, unforgivable. And then just abandoning him like, wow, you have too many problems and I just don't want to deal with it. So, see ya. Like, I see that your mother is really a mess also, and so I'm just gonna leave the two of they should address. Trying to cure somebody, we all know already that's not a thing, that you can't do that. And especially if it is your